subcontractor. Have you ever read about the reasons they attacked us? They attack us because we've been over there.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back. You are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Skaggs and yours truly, the captain. I know it's been a while, but we got another great episode for you. Skaggs, take it away. Introduce our amazing guest that we have today.
Yeah, what a better time to get the captain and Skaggs back together for a political episode. But we are joined tonight by somebody who I consider, to be honest with you, I'm biased, a hero for what he did the past couple months. Tony Aguilar. He is a former U.S. Special Forces Green Beret Lieutenant Colonel. Thank you for joining us, man. But so I don't know. I mean, we did a podcast episode about this specifically a couple months ago, but there was a pretty big debate on the Joe Rogan Experience between Douglas Murray and Dave Smith, and they were talking about the war in Gaza and Israel and U.S. foreign policy and all those things. I don't know if you saw it, but I remember kind of one of the biggest moments that came out of it was a comment that Douglas Murray made to Dave Smith, where he was like, have you ever been to the crossing points? And trying to make the point that, well, Dave Smith's never actually been to Israel or to Gaza. He can't really talk about it. Obviously, I think that's a preposterous fucking claim. You could be well-read about something, and you don't have to actually have been there to be well-read about it. I've never been, I mean, I'm well-read on Game of Thrones, but I've never been to Westeros, right? So, ironically, about a month or two later, you, a person who has been to Gaza, went on Tucker Carlson's podcast, and you detailed your experience there. And my goodness, the shitstorm that you kicked off and took place afterwards was interesting, to say the least. So, I just kind of wanted to start there. For those who might not be familiar with you, you know, your background, who you are, where you're working, and what you were doing, if you kind of just summarize that for everyone.
Yeah, so I spent 25 years in the Army. I commissioned out of West Point initially as an infantry officer, deployed many times leading American soldiers, and then early in my career as an officer, I decided to try out for Special Forces, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and became a Green Beret, and then spent the remaining 18 years of my career as a Green Beret, again deploying all over the world, leading Green Berets from the Special Forces Detachment 8-team level, and then before I ended my career, commanded a battalion in the 18th Airborne Corps, the United States Army's Joint Entry Corps, for worldwide deployment. So had a pretty exciting career, and then this just past March, I retired and was not intending to go into any type of contracting or government work or really any type of second career. I was really just spending time at home. I was bored, so I got a part-time job at Lowe's, working the opening shift in the garden center, just kind of so I could be at peace and, you know, still be out doing stuff, but really just laying low key. And when I got called by UG Solutions, which was the subcontract for security under the GHF overarching humanitarian apparatus to replace the United Nations, I kind of got thrown into this entire thing. It was not on Tony's bingo card to be in Gaza in May of 2025. Would not have been anywhere on my radar. But I was asked, and I felt that there was a need, and I wanted to be a part of helping. And, you know, again, going into Gaza, I did not expect to see what I saw. I did not go into Gaza with a preconceived notion of what I would see. Did I know that there was no food and aid going in for quite some time because of the blockade? Yes, I knew that. I had been in war-torn areas before. I'd been in Mosul, Fallujah, Raqqa, Syria, all over Afghanistan. I've seen a lot of things, and I didn't think what I'd saw was necessarily anything that I was quote unquote looking for. I did not go into Gaza with a bias. I did not go into Gaza with a there's a genocide, this is happening, and I'm going to prove it, or it's not happening and I'm going to prove it wrong. I really went into this situation with one goal, and that was to be a part of planning, operating, and delivering aid to starving human beings. That was my personal objective and my reason for going.
So you had genuine, pure intentions when you decided to change your whole retired life. Because I mean, I listened to the episode. You were the den master for your son's Boy Scouts. You've been doing things with your wife. You had this part-time job. Because the one overall question that kept popping into my head is like, why? Why would this guy go back into the shit? You did 25 years. You're a lieutenant colonel, correct?
I was a senior lieutenant colonel, looking at
Now,
yeah.
so now correct me if that's a pretty high ranking. Like after the you're almost to the top tier there before you start reaching generals and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, so my next rank would have been the rank of 06 or colonel, and then from there it
Right.
would have been into the general officer ranks within a few years. So that was kind of the trajectory.
Path you were
Yes.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want people to understand that, because I know if now, you listen to this episode and you do some research on you, some people have slandered your name and they've made lies about you and stuff. Your military career was a serious one. And so like the best I could understand is like you just genuinely wanted to help in a bigger manner. And that's why you gave up this like peaceful retired life that you had just started to go back over to Gaza, right?
Yeah, when anyone out there that has slandered, or smeared my career are individuals that either themselves did not serve at all, or do not understand the sacrifice of a over 20-year career. I deployed to combat 12 times. I have over 6 years spent not just deployed but in combat. So when you see movies and you think about war, I spent
Yeah.
over 6 years in those wars. I was thinking about this the other day when I said it, that in the last quarter century, I have fought in every war that the United States has fought in: Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, the Southern Philippines, Yemen. I've been in every war that the United States has put boots on the ground in the last 25 years. I have been there, not only fighting it, but leading in it. Anybody that wants to smear my career, I'll tell you, it doesn't even register on my radar. I do not care. I had a great
Good for
career.
you.
I enjoyed the Army. I enjoyed leading soldiers. I enjoyed what I did. I started to question a lot of what I did, but that doesn't take away from the fact of the experience that I had with soldiers. And I was, I wasn't an Audie Murphy. I wasn't a General Eisenhower, but I was pretty decent at my job. I mean, they don't getting promoted to the rank of lieutenant colonel over 20 years. They don't just hand out that rank. You have to earn it, and it's a pretty steep curve when you get to that level of the tier hierarchy in the military of the rank structure. It's not something they just give away. So my military career speaks for itself. It's in black and white. So any of those smears, it's laughable. And then they try to levy smears against my family, saying that my wife and I are divorced and this and that. My wife and I have been married for 18 years. My wife is right right across the hall doing bedtime stories, because we just got back from our youth group with my son. So so when people, like, when they landish those smears and accusations, I was like, hey honey, did you realize at some point we'd been divorced?
Yeah.
It's ludicrous. And that's what the opposition does, whether it's political, whether it's personal, whether it's in the case with Gaza and what's going on in Israel and in Gaza and between Israel and Palestine. That's the level of ludicrous behavior people will go to where they make lies that even a normal person won't believe,
Right.
but they throw it
Right.
out there. They throw it out into the ether to see who's going to bite.
Yeah,
It's so obvious. It's so obvious to me by now that it doesn't even bother me. I take it as a compliment when they waste their time trying to attack my character. Doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, again, it seems just so ironic to me. Again, not to generalize everyone, but most of the people who are pro-war in this scenario, again, you come with this huge career, laundry list of achievements and resume. And then you go and speak out against the war, and all those people who are pro-war will immediately just toss that aside and shit on you. Now, I don't think I'm the type of person that thinks like just because you served, that does not make you immune to criticism or debate or anything like that, right? Like you're just as much of an American with the First Amendment right as me, and I can challenge you on whatever it is as well. However,
Absolutely.
I'm not a soldier. I'm not coming at it from a pro-war point of view. But those people who are immediately will then just shit on someone who actually was in war and did all these things. It's very just ironic, and I don't know. Like, war makes people dumb. It really does around the propaganda.
Well, I think that war fighting, the warrior culture, our culture of the population in this country, but not necessarily the generation after me, but my generation and the generation half a step generation above me has grown up in this very toxic, dangerous warrior culture. That war. Look, Pete Hegseth changed the Department of Defense to the Department of War.
Right. I know. Yeah.
It not only violates the Constitution and the laws. By the way, that's not a law. That's Pete Hegseth's little pet project that didn't go through Congress. So I still don't call it the Department of War. I call it the Department of Defense. Congress never voted on that.
Can I see what you think about my opinion on that? So I know what you mean. I was like, like he did it because it sounds cool as fuck, right? That's why he did it. But I view it as like, like the United States government is super war hungry all the time. Good. They're just not hiding what it is anymore. It wasn't really a Department of Defense. That was kind of an Orwellian term to label.
Well, so your point's valid. I mean, absolutely. Yes, to your point, the war piece, but here's the nuanced difference. Up until World War II, at the end of World War II, after the United Nations and the peace accords, we became the Department of Defense. Changing the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War, saying that goes back to once we were, is a lie. We were not the Department of War. We were the War Department. There's a difference in the United States acknowledging that war exists and that we need a department to be able to address that. War Department. The Department of Defense after World War II, nuclear treaties, end of all wars. Obviously that's not true, but that was the intent. And that we are the department and we do defense. Naming it the Department of War is not naming it a department that addresses war. Naming it the Department of War is a department that does war. There's a difference. It's aggressive. It's not in keeping with American values. The United States Constitution, U.S. Code Title 10, has a standing military to provide for the common defense, not for the common offense, not for colonialism, not for campaigns of triumph, for the common defense. That is why we have a standing army. So Pete Hegseth needs to read the Constitution. He needs to read U.S. Title 10, and he needs to understand that beyond just the facts, where's his legitimacy? The dude was in the National Guard and got kicked out. He's been married 3 or 4 times. He can't be trusted to hold his job down without being a raging alcoholic. He had to sign a pledge that he wouldn't get drunk at work. This is the person we have in charge of our Department of Defense or Department of War? Give me a break.
It's an interesting character, to say the least. I remember when Trump first picked him, I was like, he's definitely going to be one of probably the biggest wild cards or biggest characters, I guess you could say, out of it. But I mean, I share your criticisms. Again, I don't know. I see them. I'm me, Cap, right? I view all government as just a gang, right? So yeah. I appreciate them kind of dropping the pretenses and just admitting what they are. I just saw today Trump
it's was the most honest thing this administration has said.
Right. So, maybe it'll change. Maybe it'll make some other people wake up. I saw Trump was in South Korea today, and he basically was like, they're going to give us, $350 billion to drop the tariffs. I'm like, that's gangster shit right there. And the other president, a crown, and they're allowing them to have a nuclear submarine or something like that. I'm like, other presidents did all this gangster shit, but they dressed it up in ungangster language. I'm like, at least he just shows you what it really is, the nature of the beast.
One thing that I will give, one thing I always look to, I consider myself a very even road, rational, logical person. I didn't look at the situation in Gaza and be like, oh my God, this is, I looked at it by a rational approach, Same thing I'll say for Donald Trump is that, there are 4 elements of national power. Every nation, whether you're the Maldives or you're the United States: diplomacy, information, the military, and your economy. Donald Trump can play economy and he can play diplomacy when he's not being a jackass. He can do diplomacy. He is surrounded by a cabinet of people that aren't diplomats and do not understand the economy and the levers as he does. Could we have levers of the economy that would be pretty gangster, that we could get, we can have better trade, better negotiations, a better standing in the world on an economic platform? Absolutely. But we're going about it the wrong way. We are using the big M, military, instead of the big D, diplomacy, to get what we want, which doesn't work in the long run. And the reason that's concerning is because economic agreements, economic trade, negotiations and peace at the threat of your military leads to future war. We've seen this since the Treaty of Versailles, since the Sykes-Picot Accord. We've seen this over and over and over and over again. And what's concerning to me is that Donald Trump's kids, Pete Hegseth's kids, Mark Rubio's kids, and Mark Rubio, they're not going to fight in the next war. We are. You, me, our kids, the people that aren't part of the elite, will fight in the next war. So, yes, the president who is in charge of foreign policy and should wield that economic or that diplomatic stick, absolutely. But we're going about it the wrong way. And our president is surrounded by advisors who don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, he's surrounded by warmongering neocons, right? I mean, we could get into this forever. I mean, I share your criticisms. I talked about he, wants us to get back into Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan because he wants, and he's framed it around, it's close to where China makes the nukes. Just like,
I was watching on live,
approaching it from that. Obviously, that's like antagonistic towards them. How about we approach it from a different point of view?
No, you're right. It's I think unfortunately what we will learn, and it's going to be it's going to hurt, and I don't know where it's going to come from, but it's going to hurt. And when I look at things that are going on right now with, we're always interested in the South China Sea and China and Taiwan. That problem hasn't gone away. China just realizes that, man, we're getting ourselves deep into the Middle East and Ukraine, and China's just sitting back waiting. And when they decide to move, it's going to hurt. It is going to sting. It is going to be a Pearl Harbor, 9/11, Gulf of Tonkin. It's going to sting and it's going to hurt. And I'm not saying it's going to be the downfall of America, but it's going to wake us up. And when it does, we will look at this and be like, where did our allies go? Well, we pissed them all off. We pissed off Canada. We pissed off Mexico. We pissed off France. We pissed off Australia. We pissed off the United Kingdom. We're trying to make amends in Southeast Asia and Asia, but China's already got that on lock. Believe me, if it comes to picking sides, China will win as the hegemon in Southeast Asia and Central Asia. That's a fact. We're fooling ourselves if we think otherwise. So we have got to get back on track with alliance building and treating allies as allies and not puppets. Because if we think that Israel is our ally of choice to go into the next war, we are fucking ourselves over.
I was going to say, Israel's not going to come and help us? Our greatest ally?
No.
So, I mean, we share that sentiment for sure. So let's bring it back real quick to Gaza. So, what is it exactly that you were, your position in the GHF, right? And what is it that you specifically were doing in Gaza?
So when I first got called on May 13th from UG Solutions, that was for a subcontract for security. UG Solutions was hired under the kind of the umbrella of companies under GHF. So the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation isn't a thing. There's no agency or entity or body or staff or companies to it. It's just an idea. And under that idea, you have a bunch of different companies that are for-profit, contract-based companies making money. And GHF was kind of the puppet master between all of putting these companies in play. UG Solutions was one of those companies out of North Carolina. I got called because I'm here in North Carolina. I'm retired SOF. They were specifically looking for SOF, special operations people with background. So that's how I got contacted, was through that network. So What I specifically did, I was just hired as a security guard, essentially a security guard, an overpaid security guard. Go into Gaza, guard the food, don't get shot, come home, do that every day for 9 months, or excuse me, for 90 days. So when I deployed with the company, UG Solutions, out of the United States, and we got into Israel, we were, imagine 350 Americans showing up in Israel, all, ready to, like, what are we doing? We're going into Gaza. There's the gate. Go there. It's like, whoa, timeout. Like, what's the plan? How are we going to be armed? Where are we going? That would be a great start. Where, can I see a map? All these questions that weren't answered, where it was just kind of like, just throw Americans at the problem and they'll figure it out.
So hang on. So you get there and there's literally, they're like, just get on a bus and let's just bring you down into Gaza right now from the airport.
The way you just described it, exactly. Literally, get on a bus.
That's interesting. I mean, we go on bachelor parties and
it's a subcontractor.
Yeah, I was gonna say we go on bachelor parties and there's like a plan of attack. Like, let's go and get the food first. And
my background
prepared,
check and indoctrination to work at Lowe's Garden Center was more involved than my job to work in UG security in Gaza, and that's a fact.
It's not a good sign or a good start.
Yeah, I'm gonna get ahead of myself, but like this was just planned to fail from the start.
It wasn't.
I listened to your interview, and like that's why I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, you've already outlined the plot. It's like a Quentin Tarantino movie. You see it. Now I'm just going to walk you through the details, but you already see the ending. It's clear.
So
it's a disaster.
You get to the airport. They what? They
so as soon as we showed up into Israel, it was day one on the ground. Just a nightmare. Like, where are we going? Who's responsible for us? How are we? What's our legal status here? Oh, we're gonna. You're all gonna do a tourist visa. And I'm like, I'm gonna be armed with a machine gun in an armored truck going into Gaza on a tourist visa. Well, yeah, because there's, to do a diplomatic visa would take a long time, and that really costs a lot of money. I'm like, and I was kind of like, you said it would take a long time. I was like, did you just plan this thing now? Like, I feel like you put this plan together like in the last 48 hours. Like, are we coming in on a plan that's already been planned, or are we just building this airplane in flight? And it was, not only are we building the airplane in flight, like we jumped out of the plane without a parachute.
Flight path.
Yeah, we're flailing. So I had, after 25 out of all the contractors there, I had the most experience in the military and had the most time in service. Most of the veterans that were there that were hired by this contract were guys that did 4 or 5 years. Maybe a few guys did a career as non-commissioned officers who have a different job in the military. So my entire career as an officer is planning and directing formations, combat units in intense situations. So I just went to the boss, to the guy in charge. I'm like, hey, you're drowning here. Like, it's obvious. Like, this ain't gonna kick off on time if we're going the way we're going. Like, let me help. Let me interject and like help put a plan together.
You have the experience. Yep.
I have the experience. So within the first 24 hours of being, or 48 hours of being on the ground, I got promoted from just, security guard to the director of joint operations. Basically the guy in charge of because we had operations for the southern Gaza, and we had operations for central Gaza. So I was put in charge of kind of all of the operations. And so when I was put in charge of operations, when I stepped into that position, it's kind of like if you're a manager and you take over a baseball team, you're like, okay, let me see the roster. Let me see our bench. Let me see our play, all that. And I was like, okay, so here we are. Give me the books. Let me see where we're at so I can figure out a plan. And I shit you not, the response to that was like, we don't have a plan. I'm like, so it literally came down to like
then and there and went home.
Figuring. No, a lot of people did turn around. A lot of people did that day. They were like, I'm out. We lost 15 to 20 contractors. The guy that was, so there was a guy in charge of the whole contract, the whole security contract. That guy was which I didn't know at the time. He was the president, still is, the president of the Infidels Motorcycle Club. and then nationwide. And then the guy beneath him, the second in charge, right when we started to plan this, the second in charge, the guy who was picked as the number 2 man was like, I'm out, see ya. And he warned me going out. He was another Green Beret that retired from the Army before my time. But he said to me, he was like, if you got sense, you will leave. And I stayed.
So why didn't you leave? I mean,
Get-
I'll be honest with you.
I should have.
Yeah, I'd have bounced immediately. What made you want to stay?
No, man, I just I couldn't stand by to see something so jacked up, but was so important, because here's the premise. Here's the premise that we went in on. The United Nations. So I'm not giving any opinion or agreement. I've come to different conclusions. This is the premise as stated by the Israeli government and our government. The United Nations and UNRWA are complicit with Hamas in giving all the food to Hamas. So this war will never end.
Yeah.
So UNRWA, you cannot go in anymore. No food was going in. What are we going to do? So Israel and the United States hatched this plan. This plan being the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to be the replacement for the United Nations to take food into Gaza. Now, I'm not a nutritionist, but I do know that if human beings don't eat food, they will die. It doesn't matter if they're Palestinian. It doesn't matter if they're Israeli. It doesn't matter if they're American. It doesn't matter if they're Mexican. It doesn't matter if they're Canadian. If a human being doesn't have food and water, they will die. Watching this over and over and over again and seeing the United Nations daily, this has now risen to a class 1 famine, or excuse me, a class 1 mass starvation, class 2, class 3, class 4. The next step is famine. Famine wipes out populations. When I said, yes, I'll go, when I said, yes, I would do it, my wife can bear witness to this, because I told her about it. My wife was like, you're out of your mind. And I said, I know I've done stupid shit my whole life, but I really want to help. And I said, I think there's a lot of problems. I think this is not going to go well. I think that this company and that the United States, in partnering with Israel, has bit off a lot more than it can chew. And I don't think this is going to go well unless they hire people that have experience at this level. Planning operations at that magnitude, it's hard. It takes experience. So it's something that I've done. So when we got there, and it was expected that, yeah, man, this is bad. I so wanted to quit. Like that second night, the second night we were there, going into the second full day, I was concerned, man. I thought, I served 25 years in the Army. I'm going to go get shot in Gaza because these guys can't tell me which way's up and down. I for sure, man. I was like, but then others started to quit, and I had that inclination that I'm going to quit. So I kind of gauged it. I was like, are these guys going to back out of this? Because nobody should be doing this. And then the inclination of like, yep, we're doing it. It became clear to me one of two things, because I hadn't decided yet on my own, that this is either utter, complete incompetence, which I hope we can fix it, or this humanitarian operation was never meant to be a humanitarian operation, and this is simply just another lie to continue the starvation under the facade of we're doing humanitarian aid.
I guess it's a deliberate tactic to use. Obviously, they're not gonna fill each one of you individuals who are going in on the mission that this is our evil plan. But in a sense, and look, what the fuck do I know about UNRA and all that stuff, right? The UN and all, and if they're working with Hamas, right? But is that what you think they were doing? Maybe let's kick.
No.
Guys
So your
out.
point, I wouldn't have believed it myself had I not been in the board. Kind of like you can imagine being in the boardroom with Dr. Evil, and he's like, "We're going to destroy the world, $1 million," and it's like I was there. Like when I saw that, I'm like, "Holy shit! This is a plan."
Right. No one told you that was the plan, but it appeared that was the plan. Yeah. They never
did.
It's like the crux of what me and you always talk about, right? There's no guy in an evil boardroom that's telling everyone on his team the plan. It just kind of happens.
Israel is almost that bad. Almost. I'll tell you. So the third day that we had got there, they took all of us on these charter buses, and they took us to because when we first got there, 350 Americans coming into Israel. Israel, the cities aren't like LA or Dallas or New York City, small cities. So they had us kind of like spread apart between Beersheba out in the Negev Desert, South Central, Tel Aviv, Ashdod, and Ashkelon, which were north of Gaza along the coast, and Tel Aviv being the capital. So they had us spread out through all there. So on the third day, we were going to get this instructional briefing. So they had charter buses pick us all up to take us to Tel Aviv, basically pick us all up and take us to Tel Aviv. So we were in one place. On the way, as we're going, we stopped. The IDF that were in charge of us out of the coordinating office for the governance of the territories. It's part of the Ministry of Defense. They dictate everything that goes in and out of Gaza. It's called Kogat. They stopped at this historic marker, if you will, and I was like, this isn't Tel Aviv. Like we're a good hour from Tel Aviv. They took us to Sterdot, and if you Google Sterdot, Sderdot, it is a small village, a small kibbutz outside of Gaza on a large hill, a large overlooking hill. Many have seen this on the news. It's where Israelis go to observe the bombing of Gaza City, where along this scenic viewpoint, they have it manicured, concrete, paved. You can park there. They got the big binoculars. You can put the money in and watch the bombing. They got TV screens that show the bombing inside the city.
I've seen this. I've seen videos of people at
it's
this.
An overlook that is like a scenic overlook that gives you a look into the bombing of Gaza City, where children are starving and people are being bombed, and you can buy snacks and there's vending machines, and you can get there's like a photo spot where you can get your photo with the city in the background, and if you're there long enough and time it just right, you can get one with a bomb in the background. And they took us there and they were showing us like, hey, this is the IDF officer standing there, and he's like, hey, behind me, this is all Gaza. To the west is the ocean, to the south is Egypt, that way is Tel Aviv, behind me is Gaza City, you can see all of Gaza, that's where we're going to be operating. And you're just looking at it from this point and you're like, holy shit, there's nothing left. Like, what is there left? What is there left to provide humanitarian aid to? Who is there left to feed? Like, what is left? And it's just gone. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I was like, and people started asking some questions like, hey, what routes are we going to be taking? Which areas are we going to be in? And we were starting to ask questions like, hey, if the UN had 400 sites and 500 trucks, there's only 300 of us. How are we going to man this? And the guy was like, we're not doing 400 sites and 500 trucks. We're doing 4 sites and 12 trucks. And we're like, a day? Like, how's that gonna feed everybody? And this guy, I don't know if he just didn't give a shit about the narrative or if he let the cat out of the bag, but he was like, we're not feeding these people. We're not feeding our enemy. This will all be Israel. And I, being the dumb kid in class, I'm like, I thought we were going to feed them. I thought that's why we were here. And his response to that was, this is a high-ranking IDF officer in the Kogat, was like, your government insists that we feed them to get the international community off our back. So we'll let you go in and give them food, but we're not feeding these people. They didn't even hide it. Just like they don't hide it now when they talk about annexing the West Bank, or they talk about destroying all of Palestine, or there'll never be a two-state solution. They don't hide their intentions.
That's interesting, because one of the questions I was going to ask you, if you got a measure of kind of the mindset of the people there, obviously on both sides. I was going to ask you about the IDF. Now, again, I every person's different, right? Not every person thinks exactly alike. But
sure,
did you get a while you were there? I don't know. Did you get to interact with any Gazans, Palestinians on the ground there, and get a measure of how they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they think of America? This entire war.
I engaged with, conversed with, talked to thousands of Palestinians every day in Gaza on the sites. I've got thousands of photographs and videos of being with them. I worked hand in hand with and coordinated, talked with, and planned with the IDF every day. And one thing that I'll say is that in the south at 3 sites where we had just thousands upon thousands of Palestinians every single day coming to these sites. And I engaged with, at all of these sites, not once, not on one occasion did I ever ever witness or see an armed Palestinian or a Palestinian with any malintent.
It's interesting.
So
Not one,
again,
not an AK,
yeah.
not a pistol,
This
nothing.
this just all seems to me like, and it basically the cat's out of the bag when the IDF officer was like, no, we're not feeding these people. You guys are feeding them. They have no. You guys were basically just there so CNN could go, look, we're there. They're giving food. By definition, you are doing the right peaceful thing to make it look like the nation is trying to find some type of peace. It makes me like question now, like, how deep, like, is this ceasefire even real, or are we
No.
just buying time? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I feel like.
I did want to get into this. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just.
All right.
Yeah,
It's certainly
this,
not funny. Sorry to laugh. It's
Yeah.
No, it's not. No,
It's
it's
so bizarre.
there's so many things in this. If it wasn't so
almost-
tragic, you could make like one of those Naked Gun movies out of it. If it
Yeah,
wasn't so
Swoop
tragic,
film.
this could be like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
a
feel
National
like it's
National
like-
Lampoon goes to Gaza.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a video game almost, because like when I was listening to you talk to Tucker, you were like, all these thousands of people would show up for food, and they would open the gates, and as people ran in to get the food, the IDF would just open fire on them, and then some people would get food, and then like in 10 minutes when all the food was gone, they'd start pepper spraying everybody and dropping tear gas and flashbangs
Yep.
and shooting at them to leave. And then more people die. And it's just like, did you just like, not you specifically, obviously, but like, did you just trick these innocent people, these starving innocent people, to coming into like a kill
Like,
box?
But
with
what is
food?
that? Is this a
That's-
humiliation ritual? Like, what exactly
Yeah.
was that? What is
You
that?
have both hit on two very important points. Number one, humiliation and dehumanization. The dehumanization of the population within Gaza and also the West Bank has been part of the long-term strategy for decades, to dehumanize, which is why, if you think about it, why the majority of the world, I wouldn't say all, but for right now, the world is not really sickened enough by it, because it's for decades we've come to see that Palestinians they're just not human, and that's
They're
part of the
terrorists,
humiliation.
right?
They're terrorists. Look at them. So when you're going to have the eyes of the world on people getting food, well, you can't make it look like normal people in a line with their families getting food, a father and a mother that loves their children, who could care less about killing Americans or even care less what Hamas is. You can't have that. We need to show mobs of people fighting for every scrap of food to show, look at these people. They're exactly what we said they are, terrorists and animals. Look at them. It was by design. Now with the
It's just all
trickery,
propaganda.
tricking them to the sites, that's exactly what they did. So if you look at the population within Gaza, 2.1 million, UN was operating 400 sites throughout the entire Gaza Strip. GHF came in with 3 sites. Additionally, we added a 4th, which closed down very quickly thereafter. So for all intents and purposes, 3 sites. And all 3 of those sites were located in the very, very far south of Gaza, the furthest south, where there were no
Rafah.
people. In Rafah,
They
that's
just-
right,
yeah, they
southern
made this
Rafah.
as difficult as possible.
Well, it was designed to, if you're a Palestinian and you live in central Gaza, 10, 12 kilometers away, if the Israeli army were to go in and start physically removing people as they did before, remember, before the ceasefire in March, last year's ceasefire, they did that. They were forcefully removing people, and that started to gain condemnation from the international community. So now the new strategy is, we're not going to force you to leave. We're going to starve you, and then we're going to give you food. You just have to leave to go get it. So now Palestinians in central Gaza, because the north was completely cut off. No one in the north could come north or south. That was a completely different problem. That's where they're invading now, north of Gaza, north of Netzarim in Gaza. So south of the Netzarim in central Gaza, Khan Yunis, Mawasi, they basically gave them the option: starve to death or go get food. Look at this food we brought for you. So when you leave your house to go down to these sites, which is a 1 to 2 day journey, depending on how often you get held up from military operations, After you get your food, because you had to cross the military corridor to go to the site, you don't get to go home. Once you cross that southern military corridor, you stay in the south. And while you're gone, they blow up your house. So they didn't displace you. You voluntarily left.
Right. And then they'll turn around and make the point like, well, why aren't these people leaving? We've given them fair warning. Like, I don't know. Would you put yourself in that situation, right? Like, if you have an idea that I'm starving to death, but if I fucking leave my house, I might not come back. I might come back to literally rubble. And that probably is going to happen anyway, right?
Regardless,
but I don't know. Like,
just
put yourself in that person's shoes, right? Like, I don't know. I am not leaving this place, Captain. You know me, right? Like, I will fight to the fucking death for my home, to my private property, right? So
and the thing is that who wouldn't, right? I mean, who wouldn't? But also
it's a natural human instinct, right?
But also, if you consider, let's just say the food itself being a separate problem. Let's just say that they're bombing the neighborhood. Like, hey, Hamas is here. We're going to bomb the neighborhood. Get out. Where would you go? There's nowhere to go. You're not going to the next town over. You're not going to the neighbor's house. There's nowhere left to go. Hey, we're going to bomb this part of the city. All of you need to leave. Okay, go where? Where am I going to go?
Right. Yeah. It's just walking around in circles.
That's what they want, Off a long walk off a short pier. At this point, though, they have bombed so much of Gaza and the Strip. They've killed so many. There has to be close to them. If it was 2.1 million population, it's got to be down to like 1.2 now. I mean, there can't be that many left.
I think that the more accurate death toll in terms of actual deaths by bombardment, mortars, artillery, shooting, buildings collapsing on people, I think that death toll is in reality close to 500,000, about 500,000.
That's crazy.
Adding on to that, the death toll from starvation, disease, being exposed to the elements without, being malnourished, that kills people. So I think in totality, the whole death toll given overall is probably close to 750,000. So there's probably about a 1.5 million left. And I'll further kind of add that by that the plan from the beginning, when all Palestinians would be displaced to the far south to be concentrated for this reconstruction, that the concentration encampment that was going to be built in the south, where all survivors would go, was only built to the capacity of 1.5 million. So kind of makes you think, what happened to the other 1.5 million people?
Strange how
or is it that they just obviously
with Nazi Germany?
It's ironic. Again, I think irony is one of the themes of this episode so far. This is such a broad question, and it's such maybe a taboo thing to talk about. I mean, do you think that the goal of the Israeli government is genocide, or would they be happy with everybody just getting the fuck lost who lives there and moving out?
I think that so it's one of those things to where Israel and others who turn a blind eye to the genocide, they'll use all the words that describe a genocide. Well, it's ethnic cleansing because of Hamas, because we have to start over with them. We don't want to kill everybody, just enough people. And it's ethnic cleansing. I'm like, okay, so it's ethnic cleansing of a specific marginalized ethno-racial group within a region that's being oppressed by another state, that group. Well, yeah, like that. Okay, that's the definition of genocide. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, so they call it all of the things. They just won't call it a genocide. That's when they speak in English to an American audience.
I've seen this. Yeah.
When they speak in Hebrew in the Knesset, does that language change? So it's I think that we would say, okay, Israel, we'll just take all the Palestinians and we'll move them to the Negev desert, or we'll move them to Egypt, or we'll move them to Cyprus. Okay, so one problem with that, we've just now set a precedent that's acceptable. If there's a population of people you don't like, you just get rid of them.
Take them out. Yeah.
Get rid of them. the other option to that being is that if we say, okay, Israel, we'll do that for you. If anyone thinks that the total occupation and taking of Gaza and the West Bank, and that Israel is now this homogenous one Israel, don't think that it stops there. Israel's plan for a greater Israel includes Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, parts of Iran. Don't think it ends there.
It's world domination.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I mean, it's it's not something I've seen. It's interesting, right? Like I've seen some IDF soldiers have that patch. I don't know if you've ever seen this. They have, like, patch of the map, the outline of the Greater Israel Project. Because I feel like when people reference the Greater Israel Project thing, they're speaking about the Golan Heights, the West Bank, maybe some part of Lebanon in the north, Gaza, of course, right? But like a lot of us have looked at it and been like, yeah, but what I've seen, kind of historically speaking, I guess you could say, people will call this a conspiracy theory, is what you're saying. A much wider region in the Middle East of Israeli government control, all those areas that you mentioned.
Yeah, things are
like the what I mean is like the politically correct explanation for the Greater Israel Project is like the West Bank and Gaza and the Golan Heights. But I do think there is some merit to the argument of like, no, it's way beyond that. It's expansion into the region in general.
No, if you have seen the map that Netanyahu will display at the UN and other in the Knesset at the UN, is what you just described as the Greater Israel. But in securing the Greater Israel also means securing beyond that, so that the Greater Israel isn't always under attack from those people that they've taken land from. So if you look at the Greater Israel as an outlined nation state, around that there's this security zone.
So it's not like raising the Israeli flag over that land outside of the map that Netanyahu held up at the UN. It's more so like, as long as those countries are subservient or do exactly as we say, and are under our boot, good enough. They're part of the Greater Israel Project in a sense, or that region.
Yeah, look at the the only thing I go back to, in the treaty of, prior to the Treaty of Versailles, and then after the Treaty of Versailles, when we gave, between France and Germany, the Alsace-Lorraine, and you had people that were living in France that were German, didn't want to live there, and you had people that were French living in Germany that didn't want to be there, and they were like, but that's where we cut it. And it's like, okay, well, I like how you did your map, but I don't want to be German. I don't want to be French. And where did World War II start? Because Germany wanted that land back. So to that point is like, they say, okay, the Greater Israel, here it is. Boom, we got it. But because we know it's going to make you mad, because we took territory that's very controversial, and they're probably going to do it in a way that includes some type of war with a very fragile peace, that's going to just lead to more war over and over and over and over again. And then the narrative will be, well, we can't have our Greater Israel safe without having this also. So what I mean by that, it's not just this initial, we take it all, it's incremental. And if we...
Yeah, I understand your point too. And again, I know it's going to be framed as we're anti-Semitic or it's a conspiracy theory, right? But I mean, think about after 9/11. I mean, we had to go around the world whacking monsters in the name of freedom and safety. And it's like, are we any more free? Are we any more safe? Was that really the goal behind what President Bush was saying? Was that actually what he was trying to accomplish in Iraq? Freedom and safety in America? So again, is it that far-fetched to think that another government is also lying about their intention and trying to manipulate the public? I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. It's not my position on it is not anti-Semite or thinking that this is a unique Israeli approach. We've seen it before.
That's what I'm saying. Right. It's not. Yeah. It's not. It's normal for governments. Governments are gangs at the end of the day. Do gangster shit. Right. It's one gang territory trying to take out the other. Okay. So I want to go back real quick again, because to the Palestinians themselves, I know you said you interacted with some of them now. I've said before, actually, in one of the opening clips when we had on Scott Horton, I was trying to make the point to him, like, I don't mean to sound crude. I obviously do have sympathy for the Palestinians. What they've gone through is fucking insane. And I think it's terrible. And I have sympathy for them on a human level. But I'm primarily concerned with America first, my own family, my in group here, as every group should be concerned about your own group first, right? Now, my concern from an America first kind of right wing point of view is, hey, we're funding this whole thing, we're backstopping this whole thing. This is going to make these people really fucking pissed off at us, and that's going to probably turn around in the future into some form of terrorism, which then leads to another intervention that's sold on bullshit lies and things like that. So
20-year war.
Right. You, in a sense, creating more terrorists that we then have to fight later. That is my primary concern. I don't want my family, anybody I know, to be killed in a terrorist attack by some aggrieved Palestinian. So what is, if you were able to get this at all, the kind of feeling towards America or Americans from Palestinians, while you were there, and given the scope of the whole war going on and what's happened to them?
I think initially the majority of the Palestinians, or all the Palestinians that I met like face to face, were seemingly very appreciative that there was somebody doing something. And I think that was that initial kind of, thank God, like we might actually live through this.
Mm-hmm.
But the people are starting to see things that I, both in the United States, but also in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Qatar, in other nations, that the United States is becoming less and less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less and less
America first and more Israel first.
Well, definitely. Well, yes, more Israel first for sure, but less and less dependable. That's the word. Less and less dependable as an ally, because we constantly put Israel first.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone were to say 3 months ago, that we are going to have 200 American service members deployed into Israel at Kiryat Yat, the city that the Northern Command headquarters is at, as an overseeing force to keep the peace in Gaza, anybody, to include President Trump, any other American, would have been like, no way. Yet, here we are. We've got 200 U.S. soldiers deployed to Israel that are responsible for overwatching and coordinating the security agreement. That's going to grow. Show me a time in American history, especially in the last 25 years, that once we've sent military in, that we've decreased. Not once.
It's a government program. Government programs always grow.
It's going to keep going to the point we're going to have American soldiers. It's going to be like a Bosnia situation where we're going to be in between this tenuous treaty or this tenuous negotiation that it could go one way or another, and we're going to be in the middle of it. And to your point, resentment and hate will grow, and soon, instead of from the Palestinians that grow whatever the Hamas 2.0 is, we're going to be the enemy.
Yeah, we're going to be the next target. So when, in your opinion, since you literally boots on the ground there, when does this house of cards come down? When does this propaganda machine stop working? I mean, there's been war crimes that have been committed and stuff like that here. This isn't like your average. I mean, I you know what? Maybe it is how humanitarian aid goes. They didn't do too well with the Clintons in Haiti either. But when does this house of cards come crashing down?
Well, I think that we're couple things with the implementation of the ceasefire and the allowance of aid to go back in, seemingly a positive thing, but that was a gust of wind that started to make that house of cards shudder a little bit, because now Israel can't hide what's going on in Gaza. Like beforehand in Gaza, you had very few outside world people there. And
there's like no independent journalists or international journalists.
Either that, or the ones that were have all been killed, or you had very few people that can go in there and see it and see for what it was in detail. And I think now, shortly after within the first few hours of the ceasefire being declared and aid was going in, the reports coming out of folks from the UN and from other peacekeeping elements that went in with the UN and UNRWA were like, wow, this is bad.
Apocalyptic.
And then Israel all of a sudden was like, oh, violation of the peace treaty, we're going to go back to bombing. So as of right now, the bombing has continued. The food aid is not going in. And we're kind of back to where we were before August 10th, but now worse, in that this house of cards comes down here in the next few weeks to a couple months. We're going to see Israel backed into a corner, painted into a corner that you can no longer hide what's happened. You can take a little bite, tell people, oh, everything, rearrange a little bit, it's all still there. But now we're going to realize that, damn, they ate the whole damn thing, because you can't hide it. And when the house of cards comes down, and I've been saying this since July when I spoke to senators when I first got home, was that, if we as the United States don't stand to, one, stop that from happening, or two, condemn it and not be on the side of it if we can't stop it. When that house of cards comes crumbling down and Israel's got the 52 cards in a pile, they're going to say, "Oh, well, America let us do it. They let us. They're going to pull us down with them,
or they'll leverage our relationship." Yeah. So I take it you don't think that the ceasefire is destined for success here, or this.
I mean, it's already.
I know. Yeah. Where we saw the past day, right? They've
gone into full scale bombing in the north. It's that the ceasefire is done.
Yeah, it's an Orwellian ceasefire, right? I think even Vance and Trump said, like, it's a ceasefire, but it doesn't mean that people aren't going to kill each other from time to time.
Yeah, that whole thing, the political
the ceasefire, except for the part where we cease firing at each other.
Yeah, the political statement of ceasefire blows my mind, because it's like, there's a ceasefire, and literally you hear, like, in the background, like, you're like, I thought it was a ceasefire. Like, well, we didn't mean stop shooting.
A couple of guys playing Call of Duty. Sorry.
Right. So and again, I saw the most recent thing that happened was now again, I saw that even the Emir of Qatar kind of confirmed today that it was a Hamas guys killed, I think, an IDF soldier or something like that, which then Israel goes on this bombing campaign, and I think kills like 250 people, of which allegedly like almost 50 are children, right? But I view that as like, oh, you're right, but like, if like any one random guy with a gun on either side kills some, like, people like old beefs die hard, I said in our last episode, right? Like, I'm sure people are still going to be fucking pissed off at each other. I'm sure at the end of World War II, there was some random Nazi soldier who still had a fucking grudge and shot and killed somebody, that was in the American occupation, right?
Yeah,
that didn't mean that we didn't. That doesn't mean that we blow up the entire thing and start bombing campaigns after. So do you think that it's all just a facade, that they know that there's going to be some random Hamas guy with a grudge? He's going to pick up a gun at some point. He's going to kill one random IDF soldier, and they're almost banking on the fact that that's going to happen.
They could just lie about killing a random
that's true too, right?
Point.
But you were there, right? So you know how kind of the IDF operates to a certain extent. Are they kind of like banking on that happening? Because it feels that way to me. It really does.
It feels that way to me too, in that the IDF are looking for every excuse. Like, oh, that guy looked at me wrong. That guy looked at me like he doesn't like me. Oh, ceasefire's over.
He's got a gun, and you just
again, the peace summit that they have, neither party even attended the peace summit. So I'm like, you're having a peace summit without the parties that are engaged in conflict with each other at the peace summit.
It's mind blowing. And then the other part, let's say that after this ceasefire / going into the rest of phase 1 for the implementation of this 20-point peace and prosperity plan that you had, as you're trying to implement this plan. The point you just made is so, they didn't bring in either of the parties that needed to be sitting at the table to hash out the details of, like, the details of how it would be.
Like we made France and Germany sign the Treaty of Versailles, except they never got in the train car and worked out the paper.
We never invited them. Yeah.
Right.
We did an unconditional surrender in the Pacific and didn't invite the Japanese.
Yeah. I tried to be optimistic about this, but it's not. Maybe it was
well, even if after the day it was signed, if Hamas went completely quiet, not a shot fired, it was, the yellow brick road and peace in Gaza. Israel then come out and being like, oh, they're being too quiet. They must be up to something.
They're building nuclear warheads.
Yeah, I do want to get this one question in, but Hamas, obviously, everyone wants to call them a terrorist organization. what the fuck do I know, right? Like I saw the videos, I saw what happened on October 7th. I don't agree with that. I think that's insane. I understand that, there's been an occupation and the wars and the blockade of the West Bank and Gaza. What is kind of your opinion of Hamas? Like, what are they?
So I've asked myself that question a lot, and I've thought about that a lot, because my position on it, looking at October 7th and all days before that and all days after that, believe it or not, even spending as much time as I did in the military. And, I am one that denounces violence, because I think that war is not a condition that human beings should strive to attain to be at. I think war
Absolutely,
is a point to where, as human beings, it's our lowest form of engaging in the world, is fighting each other and killing each other.
Yeah.
And then so
No
I
other
asked
animal
myself,
does this. Yeah.
it's like, essentially what war is the extension of politics by another means, is that we can't get along or come to an agreement, so we're going to kill each other. That's what it is.
Right.
So I've asked myself the Hamas question so much, and so I kind of look back and I asked myself, well, how? Okay, there was, the election. Hamas didn't become a thing until 1987, and then after that, the elections in the early 2000s and the identification of Hamas as the political representative of Gaza. Then why? And then you look at, so I was going into like the UN resolutions, and because the UN resolutions of the past have established a lot of things, like the UN mandate for the mandatory Palestine in the 1948 demarcation line, which demarked, this is Palestine, this is Israel. So in 1978, the UN resolution 3324, which the United States was a signatory to, Israel was a resolution that was passed, is that the United Nations reaffirms the legitimacy of the resistance in Palestinian territories, the occupied Palestinian territories, resistance to the occupation to include armed struggle. So, what is Hamas and how did it come to be? Well, we created it. We had a hand in it, because we said, you were occupied. Israel, you were an occupier. This word about Israel being an occupier isn't anti-Semitic. It's not anti-Israel. It's what the United States do. They're an occupier. They even call it. They are like when we invaded Iraq and we stayed, we were an occupier. We were even an occupation force occupier. Israel is an occupier. The Palestinian territories, recognized by the United Nations, have the right to resist, and then including armed struggle. So the killing on both sides, and especially what we all witnessed and saw on October 7th, that can never be accepted, or that, yes, that's okay because of this, or it's justified because of that. But I ask myself all the time, like, what would we do if we were in that position? What would I do if I were in that position? If I was, my family was starving, the world was losing any type of attention or care for the plight. We were being taken over and destroyed. And would I plan and prepare to strike back in a way? I probably would. I mean, we did that in the United States when we didn't like Britain occupying us. Why wouldn't someone else? So I condemn and do not condone the violence of October 7th and violence in general, period. I've seen enough war to know that oftentimes violence and killing everything and everybody rarely leads to something that is good. Look at Afghanistan. We did not leave better than we left it. Or we did not leave better than what we found it, right? So same thing will happen in Syria. Arguably the same thing could happen in Iraq. Iraq is more unstable now than it was long before we went in. So what I don't condemn is, I do not condemn the Palestinians' right to resistance, and I do not condemn Hamas's necessarily their reasoning for it. But the other thing we got to consider is that, do we think that Hamas has like a general staff and a structure, and they were organized and they were militarily organized and they had a plan and they were going to? Probably not. They probably did. Yeah.
I mean,
probably did.
I feel like they did, but I feel like at this stage of the game, majority of that has to have been blown the fuck up, and they're kind of
Oh,
there's
yes.
nothing left.
operating more
Yes.
on just little tiny groups of militia men that
Cells.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Hamas is not some kind of homogenous, organized, well-oiled machine of an army. They are operating in terrorist pockets and cells. It's hard to say that Hamas controls itself homogenously.
Right.
It does not.
Right, which makes it almost impossible to enforce a ceasefire at the same time, right? Especially if you're not going to give any grace.
Yeah, because one group of Hamas could
That's
agree
right.
to ceasefire.
That's
and then
right.
Some other warlord of Hamas could be like, "F this," and just
That's right.
Yeah.
And how do you know? How do you know the folks that are doing it are really part of Hamas? Are they just posers?
Are they just their Hamas in name?
Are they? Yeah. Who knows?
Why you would want that?
I mean,
I don't know if we're gonna wrap it up. I know we've passed the hour. I don't know how much time you want to put in. One question that is really interesting to me is, sooner or later we were talking, sooner or later this house of cards is going to come down. How is justice going to be dealt out for, I guess war crimes, or as this ethnic cleansing, if just the entire world stage is extremely, well, not the entire world stage, but a majority of it, including us here in America, are just too busy simping for the world's greatest ally, which is Israel? How can how is justice going to be served to the most popular kid in school?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I do not think that accountability and justice is going to ever happen under or through our current administration. I just don't, because look, the rest of the world, I mean, when Prime Minister Netanyahu came to New York to arrive to the United Nations, I mean, the route he took was like Amelia Earhart getting lost in the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, he had to go,
he had to fly around all the places.
I mean, the majority of the world has made their state, and as much as the United States wants to say it controls everything, it does not. And do I see in the future, again, not tomorrow, not next month, probably not next year, probably after the current administration is no longer in, there will be certain forms of justice, whether that's through the International Criminal Court, whether that's through the International Court of Justice, whether that's some kind of increased sanctions or the stopping of certain munitions or military support. There will be consequence, there will be action. It's not going to happen soon, however. My concern about that never does is that we're at a point now to where if we don't do something, the whole question of a two-state solution, the Abraham Accords, who's going to recognize who, won't matter when Israel, I mean, every time Israel does something that we, the United States, even when we come forward and we're like, man, that's a little too much. Like, we know y'all been bombing schools and mosques and playgrounds and hospitals, but then they blow up a Catholic church, and we're like, Trump's like, hey man, got a lot of Catholics here in the U.S. Like, let's not, let's not bomb Catholic churches. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, well, whoopsie, we didn't mean to. And it's like, you didn't mean to. You told them to get out of it before you bombed it. Oh, we must have been talking to a different place. You mean the other Catholic church in Gaza? There's only one. So who were you talking to? It's mind-blowing that we keep. Just imagine a police officer walking up to someone that's swerving around the road and drinking everything. They roll out the window. It smells like alcohol. There's beer bottles everywhere. Sir, were you drinking? Nope. All right, case closed. Have a good night. See you later. Like, what are we doing?
This is what infuriates me, because, I wouldn't even call it political career, but in this time doing podcasts and covering politics, I've always tried to see like it differently than what the narrative is. And I could clearly see that we have this extreme force taking on this terrorist organization. Yeah, they are terrorists for the most parts, but to be funneling all this money into it and to just keep letting this isn't even like the first ceasefire, and this ceasefire is already over as well. we've had other peace talks, and then
Yeah.
immediately gone back to bombing. Like, it's kind of like when you're fighting with your little brother and you're like, okay, we're done. The second he puts his hands down, boom, like, I see it for what it is. And it just drives me crazy.
Yeah, your piece on the the analogy with little brother piece. This is the way I see Israel to the rest of the world, where it's like they're in the backseat on a road trip, two brothers, and they're like, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. And mom is like, hey, y'all cut it out. And then a few minutes later, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. And then dad takes a turn too hard, and here's the fingers like, oh, I didn't do it, you did it. And it's like, well, now dad's gonna pull over the car and you pissed him off. So we're about to get to a point to where the world is going to be like, that is enough. And they're going to punish us too.
Yeah, I felt like that might have been some of the discussions behind the scene and pressure applied to Israel, which I felt like there was a little bit of pressure finally applied. Probably. And that might have been some of the rationale. Like, look, we got your guys back, but man, it's really getting impossible to kind of sell this for you anymore. And the further you push this, I mean, even we're not going to be able to really protect you 10 years from now, like you're saying, right? Like I know for certain, because I saw him talking about it. Netanyahu is well aware of like the demographic switch in the United States about how popular Israel is. He's literally been on camera talking about this. So they're aware that in like 10 years, they're going to have almost no support in the United States, right? And what does that look like for them? So maybe that is, maybe they are, maybe I felt like maybe they are like, okay, let's make a deal here. We already did a lot. We already got a lot of what we want. Let's kind of just do what Trump is saying we should do. But it doesn't seem like it's only been a couple weeks, not even. And it doesn't seem like that's what's going to happen.
Back in January timeframe. That ceasefire went through January 15th to like March 12th, 11th, something like that. So decent, a lot longer than this one so far. And when that ceasefire ended, the return to hostilities was even worse.
Worse, yeah.
So how does this get worse? Because we're on,
catch up
the milk in my refrigerator expired quicker than this ceasefire. So it's like, how is this going to then? What's going to be worse afterwards? Because it gets worse all the time in terms of these, ceasefires happen. Oh, then it's going to get worse, and then what? Because now there's no hostages to leverage. Hamas has got no leverage.
Yeah.
Right, which was part of the reason.
Which sitting duck at this point at the will.
Yeah, I understand. It's not good, man. Not good. I'm leaving this one a little bit black-pilled. But okay, so let's just jump on the last thing. I know you're going to be meeting up with a friend of ours, friend of the show, Jose Vega, this coming weekend. He's doing the Bronx is Gaza West, which is good branding by Jose, I have to say. I understand what he's trying to say, that I'm sure you guys both saw literally the fucking building just fall down. In the Bronx.
He took me.
That building collapsed,
and that's not the first time that has happened. So it is kind of ironic in a way that like the Bronx is falling down without bombs being dropped up by the IDF on it, just of its own merit, right? So tell me a little bit about what the event is and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so the town hall that will be on the 2nd, it'll be myself and also Captain Josephine Gilbeau, who's been pretty outspoken, former military officer who resigned in protest, who is with me when I got arrested in the Capitol on the 3rd of September. So she'll be there as well, and we're talking basically that message, and that a big motivation for me, as you started off the show, was that America first, like America first. And what Jose had showed me was when we were walking around, Jose showed me two different pictures, and he was like, they were black and white, to kind of take away that. He was like, which one is Gaza and which one is the Bronx? And I was like, I don't know. They both are Gaza. And he was like, nope, this is the Bronx. He's like, I'm going to take you to where it happened. And we went there and we saw it. And I was like, and he was like, and you know what? The person right now that's the representative for this district, the poorest district in the United States, takes a ton of AIPAC money.
Richie
and
Torres.
is a big backer for Israel. He's like, so right now in our Bronx, where we don't have money from our government through the taxes we pay to keep buildings from falling down. What if that facade brick wall came down and landed on a kid?
Yeah, it's a fucking miracle that didn't happen right
Yeah.
away.
So it's like
thing
in
fell and
our
didn't hurt
own
anybody. Yeah.
country where our highways, our buildings, our bridges are dilapidating and we're not paying for it, where our government is shut down, but we still have lawmakers that will put Israel first.
Right.
So
the government shut down, but we'll still send them money.
absolutely, we'll
Those
still
checks
send them
keep-
money.
Those munitions keep
Yes.
coming. Those checks keep
Yes.
coming. Yeah.
Oh, and that's the piece that I was going to say about with the the whole bombs piece, and that we say hey, stop, ceasefire. We still keep sending them bombs. What do we think they're going to do with them? They're just saving them for a rainy day?
Yeah, that's ultimately, I think, the biggest leverage we have, right? We're just not going to give you the tools you need anymore. So you start doing what we want, right? But all this tough talk on the outside never really gets followed up by any action on that end, right?
Oh, no.
You can't do that
Yeah.
shit. And again, that goes back to my original point before. My concern is that these people know, like, Nikki Haley, remember that, signing the fucking artillery shells that are
That's so, and the thing is, that goes to should show you, it definitely shows me, people that have never fought in war, because that is utterly disgusting. Not even against my enemy. Like in fighting the Taliban, you think when we fired a 155 round, I was like, hold on, let me sign it. You should not celebrate taking the life and killing another human being, even if it's justified. Even if it's justified. Like, you're in your home, someone breaks in, they're trying to kill you, you shoot them, you had the right to do it, you were justified. It doesn't mean you should celebrate it, and it doesn't mean we should romanticize killing, regardless of who it is. Because do you think that bomb that was dropped with Haley Nikki's name on it killed Hamas? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah. And it's ironic because someone like that or someone supporting the war is going to say we have to do this because those people are savages or in a death cult and they would kill all of us if ever had the chance, right? It's like, as you're signing the artillery shell about to be launched.
That's right. Like, these people are savages. As you're putting your name on a 2,000-pound bomb that will likely kill children. You can't make this up.
The irony, I guess, lost on them. I don't know. Not lost on me though, and a lot of us. I think that is changing. So
I don't know if they don't get the irony, or that they think that so many people think like that, that quote. And I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if it's real. I haven't seen the evidence, but I do know that the reporter who has responded to that did provide it for everybody. So I'd assume it's real. I mean, I don't know. But the text message where the White House press secretary wrote, back to the question of why did you pick Budapest as the place to do the peace summit between Ukraine and Russia, given Budapest's background? And she's like, your mom. It's like, what? Have y'all seen that text message?
No,
I didn't know. No.
Oh,
but,
it is hilarious. A prominent reporter contacted the press secretary. I can't remember her name, but saying like, could you please explain why the president and why the administration chose Budapest as the place to discuss the negotiations between Trump?
It's a fair question. Yeah.
Because, I mean, Budapest has got some pretty bad history in that realm. Not a place. It's like, let's go to Hiroshima to sign a peace agreement with Japan. It's
right.
Like, so as this reporter texts her and asks her, would you be willing to comment on the why? Why was Budapest selected? And the White House press secretary responds back to her clearly. Your mom.
Is this the current White House press secretary, or is this the
previous? Yeah, this
one?
just happened like freaking
your
like
mom.
2 days ago. It's all over the news. She responds with your mom. I'm like, that's who we have at the reins of our government. Like, yeah, I don't know why I can't think of the current White House.
Yeah, I Levitt, right? Carolyn Levitt, maybe her name
is it?
But it kind of reminds me of not to drag this on, but thinking back to the Ukraine Maidan coup and when Victoria Nuland was that phone call leaked where they were
yes,
they were picking who's going to be in the new government that they're supporting in Ukraine. This all led to the war later. And she said, and someone asked her like, what about the EU? And she goes, fuck the EU in the call. And that ended up becoming the story that the whole media ran with. She said, fuck the EU, not the context of the conversation where you have people in the United States government choosing who's going to be in the new government of Ukraine that's about to be overthrown. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
You know what? That's a really good point, because you think of maybe Carolyn Levitt, responded to a reporter of the Huffington Post. I mean, Huffington Post is
that's probably right.
pretty decent. And
yeah,
she
but I feel like
responds,
that's Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
well, no, she responds back with, your mom. So maybe the point of it was, let's draw attention to the your mom quote, vice the substance of the argument. Like, why are we doing a peace agreement in Budapest between Russia and Ukraine?
Yeah, that's a good point. It could be.
Maybe it was to take away from the attention, like respond with your mom. So
she's actually a pretty slick press secretary, right? Because she's playing some 4D chess there, right? Could be. That's a good point. Yeah.
I like to think that she was probably into her third box of boxed wine at home. It was just like
maybe it is kind of part of the course for the Trump administration so far. I don't know if you guys have seen. Which, on occasion, I kind of think some of the things they post are funny. I've seen them post recently, or like DHS or ICE have posted they posted a Halo video game meme the other day, like Fight the Flood, and like I love Halo as a kid. I do kind of think it's funny. But then at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but like,
this is the Department of
don't you see how this is just gonna piss people off? Like, I do believe in like immigration enforcement and the border and things like that. Like, this is gonna just troll people into the riots that you saw in Los Angeles a couple of months ago, right? Like, it's just, is that a good idea? Like, maybe save the trolling stuff to idiots like us.
That's right. Save the trolling for us peons that aren't, because if you're trolling, but you're like, if you're the dude that has the button to the nuclear bombs in your office, don't make jokes about nuclear bombs. Like, you just like,
again, I'm all for a good joke, and I'm all for Trump trolling the media at times, but like when it comes to just certain things like that, I'm like, it seems like you're just trying to piss people off, maybe. And like, I actually want to accomplish some of these things, and I don't know how. That's making it easier. So
like when the press saying, like, what about First Amendment rights? And he was like, well, I can take your First Amendment rights. He was obviously being like pokey and just being Trump, right? But then it's like, well, you say that as a joke, but you're kind of,
there's a lot of people.
It's kind of looking that way. Like, are you sure you're joking? Like, when you're the person that yields that power, you shouldn't make jokes about what you'll do with that power, because you can actually, if I make a joke about taking away the country's constitutional rights, be like, okay, whatever, idiot, like from your basement or your mom's house, like you're not going to do anything. But when you're the president of the United States and you see it, it's not that far disconnected to be like, oh, wow, he actually could. That's not funny.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe even if like you could, but you never have. I mean, there's some. I mean, we've covered on this show. Like, some of the college protesters that were just critical of Israel, and they basically yanked their visa, threw them in prison. And it's like, I don't agree with those kids on 90% of whatever it is they believe in. I'm not a leftist, right? But like, they have a right to go out there and protest against the war, even if they're not American citizens, right? And so if you're going to then make the joke, I'm going to take away your First Amendment right, like I could get it. You're just trolling, right? I'm Trump. I don't really mean it. Yeah, but you kind of have done that type of shit in certain scenarios. So I don't know. It seems like you're just pissing people off, dividing people further,
And that, that's kind of, I mean, I don't know. I just think, I think at heart, Trump is a businessman, and he wants to get deals made.
Yes,
he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. He wants to go down in history as being the deal maker. And the war is very lucrative and makes the war industry, the military industrial complex, a lot of money. It doesn't make Trump look good. And he cares about that more than he cares about other people getting rich, because he's already rich. So I think it's not in Trump's best interest. I just think he's lost control of his cabinet.
I don't think he lost control of it. I think he picked a pretty neocon type cabinet from the get-go. It's one of our biggest criticisms.
He's been, $100 million from Miriam Adelson.
And even the good ones.
And can you believe he just said that out loud, like it was something he was proud of?
I covered that on the last time. That was bizarre. Can that be the last thing? What did you guys think about that? I thought that was one of the oddest things to come out of the whole.
He called her out
to the Israeli Knesset, where he basically. I was like, were the Q guys right this whole time? And this is all some sort of like undercover operation to out these guys, right? I'm like, what was that? You went to their Congress and put on the spot one of their biggest donors who gave you $100 million with her stated primary concern, the annexation of the West Bank. And then you just went out there and said that shit to them.
It's like if you're in the mob and they finally designated you as a capo, and so you have your party and you pick out a list and you list all the people in the mafia that they're like, I want to thank Big Joe for making this for me. His address is such and such. I want to thank Johnny Two Sticks who agreed with it. And it's like you're just giving away the entire names of the entire gang you're supposed to be protecting. Like now he went to the Knesset and stood up there and said, "Oh, Miriam, remember when you gave me all that money and you told me to move the embassy to Jerusalem?" Right. And everybody's like, "What?"
Yeah, it was an odd reaction, right? Again, maybe it goes back to what I was saying before. I mean, Trump just drops the pretenses about the government being a gang, a gang, and he's just just you don't give a fuck, right?
Nope.
So yeah,
could
be that. All right, Tony, I think we'll wrap it up here, man. Listen,
Yes,
y'all be great.
You so much for
thank
taking
you
the time. I highly suggest everybody go check out Jose's website in the especially if you're in the Bronx and it's something you're interested in. He's got this event coming.
Yeah, he's got a good platform, a good stance, a good purpose. The people, American citizens in the Bronx and in district, in the 15.
Yeah,
they need a leader that's going to represent them because they're being
annexed,
forgotten about. Yeah.
Go to Vote Vega NYC. And again, absolutely. Again, I don't agree with Jose on every political idea he has. I'm a right-wing libertarian. I'm not sure exactly what Jose is, but he definitely believes in a lot bigger government than I do. But at least his concern is America first. And let's take these government resources that are being spent and focus them on America first. Now, sign me up.
Yeah,
I'm down for that. That's way better than Richie Torres. What he's doing right now is I don't really give a shit about the Bronx. My primary concern is Israel. So
his platform, his position on things is pretty concerning considering what his constituency is. It's like, man, that's not cool, man.
Yeah, exactly. We could debate free market economics later, but let's at least agree that war is bad and we want to concentrate our resources on our own people. That's something I think we could all agree on. Yeah.
Great point.
Sure.
Great point.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right.
Thank
Tony,
you.
Have you, since your interviews and all this stuff, have you got on social media? Are you still off it? Do you have anything to shout out? Or
I don't have any yet. I would just say my shout out would be shout out for the town hall for Jose on the 2nd, and then for those of you, it's been making rounds, I think, on different platforms. I saw about it yesterday. Seems pretty interesting. People to go check out the 22 November 1122 in DC. I guess the Dropkick Murphys and a bunch of other people are going to be leading this remove the regime rally protest, which seems like it's drawing a lot of people. So if anybody's in the DC area, I think it's on the 1122, the 22nd of November. That'll be a big event.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
y'all
so much for joining us.
Y'all be safe out there, and thank you for your voice and for speaking out. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for coming on and sharing with us your knowledge and your stories and your experiences. We really appreciate it. Doom Nation, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Skaggs and I got some more stuff cooking, like we were talking about at the top of the show. We do have our Halloween special coming out this Friday. Vastly different than what this episode was about.
Gotta have some fun.
It's gonna be a good one. We will catch you all next week. And as usual, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Adios.